Every single Corvette enthusiast out there, guess what? I figured it out. In this video, I'm about to show you exactly how I came to the conclusion of what I believe is the C8 ZR1 quarter mile time. Now, please stay with me throughout this entire video so that you can see exactly how I got this calculation, how I figured it out. I promise it's gonna be very well worth your time. Don't just skip to the very end or try to shuffle through. Like you really need to understand how I came about putting this together. It wasn't simple, it wasn't easy. It's based off a lot of different figures. A lot of stuff had to come together to make this happen. Anyways, it's gonna be super fun. This is gonna be a really good time. I can't wait for you to see exactly how I came about this. Also in the comments below, please, I need to hear from you. I need to hear your thoughts. I need to hear what you think it might be yourself. If you have your own calculations, if you think I'm dumb, if I came about it the wrong way, if what I'm looking at is flawed, whatever it is, tell me in the comments. Just leave a comment below right now and say, hey, look, I'm gonna roast you, Jesse. If you come about it in the wrong way, I'm gonna get you. But anyways, this is gonna be good. I'm super excited. I'm still in my Navy clothing right now. I just came back from Navy drill. Had a good time this weekend, knocking out Navy stuff, doing my serving and all that. For all the vets out there who are watching, service members who are watching this, thank you so much for your service and continue to fight the good fight for this country. Everything you're doing is absolutely amazing. But obviously a lot of us are car guys too. I'm a car guy. We got car girls too in the military, and yeah, it's exciting times with the C8 ZR1 announcement and everything coming about it. But yeah, enough of that. Let's jump into it. All right, now firstly, I'm gonna show you a clip of another supercar so that you can see something that is somewhat comparable when you're thinking about how quick the ZR1 can possibly be in a quarter mile. And I'm not going to do a lot of explaining on this video on the comparisons on why I wanted to use this particular clip between these two vehicles, which is, this vehicle you're about to see versus the ZR1. They're not racing each other, but there's a reason why I'm showing this video. Just watch it and keep it in your mind as we're going through today's discussion and we're talking about different things, and then you'll kind of be able to connect the dots and be like, oh, that's why he used that vehicle, and that's why he's doing what he's doing, that's why he's saying what he's saying. I remember those numbers. Okay, boom, boom, boom. You start connecting the dots, right? So first up, this is a 2021 McLaren 765 LT. This vehicle has a curb weight of 2,952 pounds, and that's because it doesn't need 1,000 horsepower to go as quick as it's going. It has only 755 horsepower. It goes 0 to 60 in 2.32 seconds in this video. The 8th mile time ends up being 6.13 at 119 miles per hour, and the quarter mile ends up being 9.43 at 148 miles per hour, which is almost 150 miles per hour. Remember that, almost 150 miles per hour. Remember Taj, famous Corvette engineer, the guy who helped develop this C8 ZR1, remember he said that the C8 ZR1 was almost 150 miles per hour. He said it's about 150 miles per hour, so remember that. All right, now going into some calculations, theories, and putting this all together. Look, to predict the potential quarter mile drag race time and trap speed of the Corvette C8 ZR1, we're gonna have to summarize the given data and some assumed data that I'm putting together to try to get this sorted out. This is what we know. We know that the curb weight of the C8 ZR1 is 3,670 pounds. The downforce that this vehicle creates at 215 miles per hour is 1,200 pounds. The quarter mile trap speed is about 150 miles per hour. We're gonna use 150 miles per hour because that's the number that they stated. The 60 to 130 is 4.88 seconds. This is a number that I was able to calculate in my last video. If you haven't watched my 60 to 130 video, it's the last video I made, literally the last one. So just after this video, go to it and you'll see what I'm talking about. But we calculated it out 4.88 seconds in the 60 to 130. By the way, in that run, there was I believe there was a passenger in that vehicle, so there's extra weight on the vehicle, and it still went 4.88, so which is just absolutely crazy. That 60 to 130 mile per hour time is based off my calculated time that I did in the video. We showcased the speedometer. We looked at, it was literally from 60 to 131, but we just kind of made that work, and it still did 4.88. Obviously, we didn't have a V-box. I didn't have a draggy to do it, and we were able to still get fairly close to what we think it actually is, especially when it gets into customer hands and people start testing it themselves with their draggy or V-Box or whatever. I think we're gonna get similar times, basically under 5 seconds, which is just absolutely insane. It's incredible what this vehicle can do. Even having an extra passenger who's probably 150 to 200 pounds sitting right there in the vehicle, like insane. Now that we're done with the given data, now I'm going into assumed data, right? So this is assumptions that I think we can reasonably make about the C8 ZR1. 60-foot time. 60-foot time, I'm assuming. I'll go through some explanations, by the way, later in this video to explain why I'm making these assumptions. 60-foot time, we're gonna assume is 1.50 seconds. And this is based off of torque management and information we've seen and heard from GM engineers. The 0 to 60 mile per hour, my estimate is 2.4 seconds. And I'll go through explanation exactly why I came to that number. But 2.4 in the 0 to 60 mile per hour, the 60 foot is going to be 1.50. All right, remember those numbers. We're gonna keep going through this whole thing. I'll keep bringing all this stuff back up so we can get to the bottom of what this quarter mile time is. All right, now let's jump into the calculations section of it, right? So we're gonna do a calculations breakdown based off of the assumed data and also the given data, right? So the given data is information that we've all heard, we've gotten from GM engineers, GM, Chevy, whoever. Boom, this is like data that they've given us. The assumed data, like I mentioned, is data that I'm assuming based off of calculations, the information I know of and just figured out myself. We'll explain that later, but now we're gonna go into the calculations here. We're gonna break it all down. It's gonna be very fun. It's gonna be very interesting. And you're gonna be able to take the information that I give you. You're gonna be able to make your own assumptions, your own estimations from there. You could think I'm off by a number or two. I don't know, but you'll be able to figure out from there. I'm gonna give you my information that I know, and I'm gonna come to a conclusion, all right? So on the calculations breakdown, analyzing the given data. So the downforce of the vehicle is 1,200 pounds at 215 miles per hour. And this level of downforce, this is a lot. It's not obviously as much as the Porsche 911 GT3 RS and some other vehicles like the Viper ACR, the 5th gen one or whatever. It's not as much downforce, but there's still a lot of downforce. I mean, 1,200 pounds, like that's a lot. If 1,200 pounds dropped on you as a human being, you would be crushed and you would die. That's how much downforce is pushing the vehicle down at 215 miles per hour. But it doesn't mean it's the amount of downforce that's pushing the vehicle down at 150 miles per hour, which is what the trap speed is for the quarter mile. So at 150, it's probably, I mean, we can use percentages to bring it down or whatever, but it's probably gonna be definitely a lot less. I would say probably, if we took a wild guess, maybe 60% of that, you know, so maybe we're looking at somewhere in the 700, 750 range or so at 150 miles per hour, which is still a lot of downforce, and that downforce also creates drag as well. So aerodynamics of wings, they help you a lot on road courses, but not so much on drag strips, right? So all this extra aero, what it ends up doing is it creates downforce, which is great on the road course, but it also creates drag, and that drag can affect your quarter mile in a lot of different ways, but somehow, some way, the fact that this car can still produce that type of downforce and still get to the quarter mile at 150 miles per hour is absolutely insane, which means this thing is really powering through all that drag, powering through all that downforce and still making it, or just maybe not creating as much drag as we think it's gonna create, especially when it's a car that can produce 1,200 pounds of downforce, which is just absolutely nutty. This is going to be wild to see this thing running. Now, these calculations, once again, that I'm making are going to be based off of what I think is a full aero package ZR1, not just the one that doesn't have all the trim stuff and is like very basic. I think this is going to be all based off of when they give us the official numbers. It's all going to be based off of the fully aero packaged car. That's what I believe. Maybe they'll give us multiple numbers. Maybe they'll say, hey, the ZTK package is running this, and then the non-ZTK is running this, whatever. They did do that, I believe, when we got the Z06. I can't remember exactly, but I think they did that. So we'll see what they give us. But everything I'm calculating here is based off what I think is going to happen, which I think is going to be based off the ZTK package. We'll see. The trap speeds and assumed 60-foot time indicate blistering acceleration for this car, especially the quick 60-foot and 60 to 130 mile per hour times that you've already seen. I told you that 60-foot's going to be 1.50, the 60 to 130, we already calculated that by watching the car actually perform it. That did that in 4.88 seconds. And if you talk to any highly modified vehicle out there that's kind of, you know, maybe somewhat similar weight, maybe a little bit more, but let's use the R35 GTR, for example. R35 GTR is a heavier car, right? But if you talk to anybody who's making around 1,000 horsepower or so, they'll tell you that that 60 to 130 that I talked about, the 4.88 is very correct. They're sitting in the 4s and 5, low 5-second club or whatever for guys making that kind of power. So that's why I think my numbers were somewhat correct on what I calculated for the 60 to 130. They've all experienced it themselves. You can talk to them if you want to you know, make sure that what I'm giving you is the right information. All right, now going to the 60-foot time, right? So this is a very, very crucial part of the quarter mile. Quarter mile time will depend heavily on initial acceleration of the C8 ZR1, and that's the 0 to 60 mile per hour, and the 60-foot time, that's going to be a very crucial part of determining how this thing accelerates off the line. Now, every 1/10 of a second that you lose on your 60-foot results in an estimated 2/10 off of your in quarter mile ET. So for example, if your car is supposed to do a 1.50 60 foot, and then you end up running, let's say, a 1.80 60 foot, your quarter mile will most likely slow down 0.6 of a second, right? So like basically 2 times your loss that you had on your 60 foot will basically be what you got to add on to that quarter mile time at the end. So 60 foot is very, very crucial. How that works, I don't know all the math to it. I'd have to look it up, but it's very, very crucial to get a good 60 foot. So that 1.50 is going to be crucial for this car to be able to run the time that I think it's going to be able to run. There's a lot of different variables that also affect your 60 foot and your 0 to 60 mile per hour. Obviously, a little bit of aero affects it. Tires, surface, is it prepped, is it not prepped? Gearing, weights, all these things affect your 60 foot. You know, if you accidentally leave, you know, an extra 50, 60, 100 pounds of crap in your car because you forgot at your golf clubs and you go run a quarter mile, it's going to affect your 60 foot. Sometimes a little bit more weight in the rear helps because you can get better grip and you can launch out. All these things affect your 60 foot. So 60 foot is going to be very crucial. 0 to 60 mile per hour is going to be very crucial. Now, before going into 60 foot, I want to talk about 60 mile per hour, and that's at 0 to 60 mile per hour. Assuming a linear power to weight ratio and using comparative data from similar vehicles, the 0 to 60 mile per hour is estimated to probably, I believe, is going to be about 2.4 seconds. It's going to be 2.3 to 2.5 in that range, but honestly, I think it's going to be 2.4 seconds. And you know, other high performance vehicles, you know, that make somewhat similar power are somewhat in that range too as well. My thought is that the 0 to 60 mile per hour is, you know, 2.4 because Chevy's not going to let the E-Ray or the C8 Z06 outshine in the 0 to 60 mile per hour the ZR1. They're not going to do it, right? So if the E-Ray did a 2.5 and then the Z06 did a 2.6, you know, the ZR1 is definitely going to do a 2.4, maybe even 2.3. But there's a lot of different reasons why it's going to be very difficult to go way past that. Just because it's making that much more horsepower doesn't mean it's going to all of a sudden go like 1.5 or something crazy like that. There's just a lot of math to it and technology that's necessary to make that happen. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but I believe it's going to be a 2.4. So we're going to use that in our calculations. Now, you start throwing drag radials on the C8 ZR1, you go to a prep track, this thing might hit a 1.9. 0 to 60 mile per hour. I really think it might be able to do it, but we'll see. We'll see. A lot of power, a lot of grip helps. Now going back to the 60 foot again, like I mentioned before, one of the most key components of the quarter mile is that 60 foot. Your 60 foot time will literally determine it all. It's huge. The initial 60 foot makes a huge difference, and GM actually has given us a little bit of information that a lot of people gloss over and we're not paying attention to during a video with actually, I think it was Taj and Eddie X on YouTube. When they were reviewing the C8 ZR1, Taj had given us a little bit of information a lot of people just missed. They didn't think about it. People haven't even mentioned it, talked about it at all. What he had mentioned was that they're still working on the launch control features of the car, and he also mentioned that they're working on the torque management. The reason why he had mentioned mentioned torque management, and the reason why it's crucial is because that torque management of the vehicle that's going to manage that power coming off the line. The ECU is going to manage the torque that you have for the vehicle coming off, so that you don't break things, so that you're not doing a roasting burnout all halfway down the drag strip. Like, the ECU is going to manage everything, so you can have very, very consistent launches. The car can come out of the hole super hard and be able to run well. The reason why torque management is a big part of this whole thing is because it's probably gonna keep your 60 foot probably in that 1.50 range. That's why I came up with 1.50. The C8 ZR1 has the 5.5 liter flat plane crank with twin turbos, right? They already know that this chassis and the parts can handle 1.5 60 foot, right? Once you start dipping into the 1.4 60 foot range, that's when you potentially break things. So I don't think GM is going to allow the car to send that much power where it's going to consistently be able to do 1.4 60 foot. Maybe it does, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to be smart for warranty reasons, be like, hey, let's limit the power, let's do to torque management. That's why he mentioned torque management, because they want to make sure they're not breaking things always. Let's let this thing be able to run a 1.50 60 foot because we know it can handle it, and we'll just let it do that consistently. I think by them doing that, it's going to keep it at 1.50, and that's going to be our 60 foot, 1.50. Now moving on to the next very important time in the quarter mile, right? So we started off with 60 foot, we talked about 0 to 60 mile per hour. Now we're going to your 8th mile, right? The 8th mile is going to be very, very crucial, right? So with the engineers at GM stating that the trap speed of the ZR1 is going to be 150 mile per hour, we can reasonably assume that the trap speed of a vehicle that can do 150 mile per hour in a quarter mile in the 8th mile, it is going to be able to do 120 miles per hour. That has been something I looked through some numbers, did some calculating, did some math, used some percentages. Once again, this isn't going to be a full math class, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm just telling you, if it's going to do 150 miles per hour in a quarter mile, that means in the 8th mile it's going to do 120 miles per hour. Now you can plus or minus that by 1 mile per hour. Maybe it ends up just doing 119, maybe it does 121. It all depends on weather and a lot of other factors, but we're going to stick to 120 mile per hour. The 8th mile trap speed will be 120 miles per hour. Now, there's a lot of variables that can affect it, like gearing, aerodynamics, weight, tire size. I mean, people changing tires and wheels all the time on these cars. All this stuff can affect it. You know, you go in with a smaller tire, not so tall tire can affect it, right? All these things can affect their mile per hour in the very end. So that's one thing you always got to remember when we're doing these calculations, that we're thinking like somebody else might run something way different than you just based off of tire alone, like nothing else but tire, prep, everything, all these things go into it. But 120 mile per hour, I think that's what it's going to be. Now, a vehicle achieving 120 mile per hour in the 8th mile, most likely its ET is going to be somewhere in the 6.1 to 6.3 range, right? We're gonna go at 6.20 as the ET for the 8th mile for the C8 ZR1. So this car is gonna do 6.20 in the, or let's just say 6.2 at 120 miles per hour in the 8th mile. I believe we're going to see many of them doing that. When they get out there to consumers' hands, they're going to be doing that. So 6.2 at 120 miles per hour will be the C8 ZR1 8th mile. Now on to the quarter mile calculation. So we already figured out 60 foot, 1.50. We already figured out 8th mile being 6.2 at 120 miles per hour. So we already got that part figured out. Now moving on to the quarter mile section, right? So everything bringing it to this point. So using information provided already with that 1.50 60 foot, the 4.88 60 to 130 time that we calculated in the last video, and thinking about just how aerodynamics typically decay the acceleration on its way to the quarter mile. When we're looking at all that, and also the heavier weight of the C8 ZR1, it's not the lightest car, right? It's a little bit heavier than the Z06, but obviously it's making a lot more horsepower. When we put that all together and we know the given data, we know that the car will go 150 miles per hour. We believe that this thing will run in the mid 9-second range. Now, I'm not gonna just keep it very vague like that for you. I'm gonna give you actual information, but just stay with me now, stay with me. All right, so with additional initial traction, right? This car is going to grip, I think, even better than the C8 Z06. Obviously, with the heavier weight and the rear, the extra turbos and all that extra stuff, it's just going to have better grip coming off the line. So with that additional grip, the speed buildup going from 0 to 60 mile per hour, that crazy acceleration, the horsepower that it has to power through the 60 to 130 mile per hour, and then the final times will be in that mid 9-second range and lower, but stay with me. My estimate, which I believe will be correct when we get the final numbers from GM on the Corvette C8 ZR1, considering the given data and performance estimates, like we talked about. By the way, I'm going to divide up my estimates, because it's not going to be just one time. I'm not going to give you one time. I'm not going to give you multiple times. I'm going to divide up those times, the predicted times, into several groups, because we have several groups of drivers who are going to be able to achieve the times that I mentioned, right? And I'll tell you why here in just a moment. Here's the groups and here's the times. You ready? All right, so manufacturer advertised time that they're going to advertise and put out there to the world that their test drivers are going to do, it's going to be a 9.6 at 150 miles per hour. Consumers, most of your normal consumers will be able to most likely do a 9.8 at 148 to 150 miles per hour. And then any knowledgeable drag racers who get their hands on the car will most likely be in the 9.3 at 150 plus miles per hour. Probably 151, 152, 153, somewhere in that range. Knowledgeable drag racers will probably be 9.3 to 150. Those same knowledgeable drag racers who get into Hero DA, so when I say Hero DA, density altitude that is like -1,000, -1,500, like in Maryland in the winter, Virginia in the winter at the drag strips over there where it's super cold and the DA is like perfect and the weather's perfect. Those who are in Hero DA, who have drag radials, skinnies up front, maybe pull out the passenger seat. Those who do that, only a few will do that. Those folks will go 9.0 at 155 miles per hour. These are the times for the C8 ZR1. Manufacturer will advertise it at 9.6 at 150 miles per hour. Most consumers will be able to do 9.8 at 148 to 150 miles per hour, and the knowledgeable drag racers and consumers, normal drag racers, I would say, will do 9.3 at 150 plus miles per hour. But then the folks who get into that Hero DA and have drag radials, skinnies, and take out a little bit of weight with the passenger seat, those folks will do 9.0 at 155 miles per hour. There maybe might be someone who dips into the 8-9 range, possibly, but we don't know until we see it. Those are the times right there. Now, if you're thinking I'm crazy and you want to see something that's like that somewhat compares to it, look at the C8 Z06, right? So C8 Z06 advertised time was 10.6 at 130 miles per hour. Most consumers are sitting at 10.8 to 10.9 at 128 to 130 miles per hour. Knowledgeable drag racers who have the car are sitting at 10.3 to 10.5 at 132 to 134 miles per hour. And then the folks who have gone into the Hero DA, drag radial skinnies, and pulled the front seat out, those folks, which is only one, did a 9.98 at 135 miles per hour. That's the current stock power record is 9.98 at 135 miles per hour. So you can take that information and look at what I just told you about the ZR1, and you can do the math right there. It makes sense. So these estimates I've made, they align with high performance data while considering aerodynamic downforce, traction, high acceleration capabilities, all the different things that this car is capable of. So for those who are probably looking at this video thinking that I'm absolutely nuts, that and they'd like to compare this video to some other evidence to see whatever, do whatever you want. Take this information that I'm giving you, compare it to wherever you want, and just see if you think I'm tripping or not. I think you're gonna find out that I'm not tripping and that I'm very correct on a lot of this stuff right here. Now, like I said earlier in this video, I wanted to show you another clip of another car that is comparable. It's a comparable vehicle to the C8 ZR1. If this clip doesn't somewhat solidify what my estimates are, then I don't know what to tell you. In fact, this special supercar is not a supercar. It is a hypercar, because the ZR1 is also going to be a hypercar, by the way. But this hypercar is a 2021 SF90 Ferrari. As you all know, there were many reports and sightings of GM utilizing the SF90 as a test vehicle, benchmarking vehicle, whatever, for the C8 ZR1. They wanted to have something to compare to, just like, you know, when they were building the C8 Z06, they were benchmarking the Porsche GT3, and they were looking at the 458 Ferrari and all this other stuff. There's vehicles that they're benchmarking against. The C8 ZR1 was benchmarked against the SF90 and some other cars. Now, this SF90 has a curb weight of 3,593 pounds, which is a little bit lighter than the ZR1. I believe it's about 77 pounds lighter than the ZR1. It also has 986 horsepower, which is assisted by electric motors, which makes it a hybrid vehicle. It also has a 0 to 60 mile per hour of 2.5 seconds, top speed of 211 mile per hour. When you watch this clip right here on the Draggy, it did a 2.39 second 0 to 60 mile per hour, 8th mile of 6.20 at 117 mile per hour. 60 to 130 was 5.02, and the quarter mile time was 9.53 at 147 miles per hour. Ladies and gentlemen, with every bit of information I just calculated a little while ago, if you don't see where this is very similar, I don't know what else to tell you. That's why I think my numbers are right. There's another reason I think my numbers are right, and like I said earlier, might have some information. Anyways, I said I might. I don't say I guarantee that. I said I might. But man, this has been super fun. I love doing this. I love figuring out these ideas and hypotheses and coming up with these theories on information based off of real data. We've been putting it together. It's been interesting kind of calculating it all. I literally did it all in the span of like an hour. But hey, I put it together and now you have this. Now, before we go, I want to give you one more thought, and you're going to be like, holy crap, why didn't I think about that, right? So I went back to the car and driver video, the one that I initially used to figure out the 60 to 130 mile per hour. And when I went back to it, I looked at the 60 mile per hour to the 151 mile per hour. The reason why I looked at that is because the track speed of the C8 ZR1 is 150 miles per hour. I couldn't stop it on 150. It only went to 151. So I was like, let me look at that. And as I was looking at that, I was able to trim it just perfectly. And I saw exactly what the car did from 60 miles per hour to 151 miles per hour. And that was 7.37 seconds. Now, I think we can all agree that the 0 to 60 mile per hour of the C8 ZR1 is going to be 2.4 miles per hour. Maybe it's a little bit quicker, but let's just give the benefit of the doubt. Let's just go with 2.4 miles per hour. That's quicker than the C8 Z06, it's quicker than the C8 E-Ray, it's quicker than the C8 Stingray, and it's just quick as heck. So let's keep 2.4. So if you do the math, if 0 to 60 miles per hour is 2.4 seconds, and the 60 mile per hour to 151 mile per hour is 7.37 seconds, if you add those two numbers together, 2.4 plus 7.37, you get 9.77 seconds. That means that the car would go from 0 to 151 miles per hour in 9.77 seconds. So now if you're thinking, well, that's slower than the predictions that you just made, Jesse. You said that, the C8 ZR1 will do 9.6 at 150 miles per hour in a quarter mile, and now you're saying 9.77. Well, let's stop for a second. Stop. You're absolutely correct that 9.77 is slower than 9.6, and it's slower than 9.0 and 9.3 and all that stuff. Yes, 9.77 is slower, but this is the thing that you're forgetting, that you missed in that car and driver video. What we all missed in that car and driver video is that there was a passenger in that seat. The seat right next to the driver. That passenger had to have been at least 150 to 220 pounds, right? So all that extra weight slows down the vehicle. So when you put someone, another human being, whether it's a man or woman, in that passenger seat, you are not going to run your optimal time. So let's just say it was a 175 pound person sitting in that passenger seat. Well, that extra weight slowed down the driver, and now they just did on a non-prep surface on street tires without even doing a hard launch. But it is a hard launch if we're still assuming the 2.4 0 to 60. But anyways, you have that extra weight and you put it all together and still running a 9.77 going from 0 to 151 mile per hour, because we know that the trap speed is 150 miles per hour for the C8 ZR1. That's pretty crazy, and I think we can use that information right there. You can literally go back to the car and driver video and just watch the speedo. It goes 60 to 151 in that, whatever I said, 7.37 seconds. So 7.37 seconds plus whatever the estimated 0 to 60 is, we pretty much got the quarter mile time right there, which is crazy. So it's super cool that by utilizing video information and data we have out there, and then just given data from the GM engineers and just things that they've mentioned, we put it all together, we're figuring this out. So you can see clearly with a passenger on a non-prep surface, 9.77 seconds quarter mile. But then when you put it on a prep surface, you run a real, drag run in a quarter mile, that thing is going to do 9.6 and better. The advertised will be 9.6. I think any decent drag racer will be able to get it down to 9.3. And then the people who have perfect weather, perfect track prep, perfect everything, pull out the passenger seat, throw on drag radios, throw on skinnies, they're gonna be able to go 9.0, maybe 8.9. So ladies and gentlemen, GM has created a true supercar killer. And because it's a supercar killer, that has now made this car a hypercar. I can't wait till it comes out. It's going to be absolutely amazing. This thing is going to be so sick. I'm gonna be so pumped. I can't wait to get mine, and this is gonna be exciting. But this is your information. Take it, run with it, do whatever you want. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy. If I'm not crazy, thank me. If you think I'm crazy, give me a real explanation. Don't just talk crap. Like, explain where I could be wrong and what you think it is. I want to get into discussions with people in the comments, so let me know down below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I do a lot of fun content. I don't just do these videos where I sit here and talk to you. I mainly do driving videos, but this is cool stuff to talk about, so I had to do it. But anyways, love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I gotta go change for my Navy stuff and get ready to attack my week. So thank you all, and I will see you later.